I was sent to a mental hospital. My fiancé stroked my hair, saying, "Be good and get treated. Once you're cured, I'll come pick you up and take you home." After that, I was injected with needles and forced to take medication every day, bullied, and my condition worsened progressively. However, 6 months later, I was smoothly taken back home. My fiancé looked at me, who resembled a puppet, and seemed satisfied. His friend said, "Isn't it time to stop? Don't scare her into actual mental breakdown and suicide." Eric replied, "To marry me, she killed the child in Chloe's womb. What she's suffering now is far from enough." It turned out that Eric had always hated me. Indeed, how could he know? My marriage to him was a plan devised by both families to save the Ling family enterprise. And the Chloe he mentioned, on the day his family was on the verge of bankruptcy, she underwent an abortion and abandoned him. Originally, today I had an appointment with a psychologist, but the plan suddenly changed. I went to the prayer room to find my fiancé. Then, I overheard a conversation that chilled me to the bone. This prayer room was specially built for me, so I could relax and pray there. I wanted to go in and ask, but Eric and his friend's conversation continued. Later, go pick her up and bring her here to continue atoning for me and Chloe's unborn child. Every time Tina kneels here, Chloe will feel a bit happier. Friend, do we have to continue? Eric, of course. She must taste the same pain as Chloe. Friend, has she learned her lesson in the mental hospital? Eric, learned her lesson? Impossible. After what she did to Chloe, she'll never truly reform, she's just pretending to be crazy. Eric, Chloe said she must also taste the pain of losing a child. I forcefully covered my mouth to prevent myself from breaking down and making a sound. In a daze, I returned home, not knowing how much time had passed. When I heard a voice in my ear again, it was Eric talking to me. He squatted in front of me. "The doctor called me, saying you didn't go for your follow-up? Your phone is also unreachable. What are you doing?" The man's face in front of me was distorted and blurry. I clenched my pant legs, maintaining my huddled position in the bedroom corner, wanting to avoid him, but I couldn't, and there was no escape. With great effort, I managed to speak. I heard a baby crying again. This time, I carefully observed his expression, and sure enough, his eyebrows raised, showing a look of surprise. He stroked my hair. "Your condition seems to be getting worse." I endured the urge to dodge, trembling as I continued. This time, I heard the baby speaking. "He said he is our unborn child, saying Daddy doesn't want him." Eric's face changed, and after a long silence, he finally moved again, helping me up while saying, "Don't overthink, I'll get your medicine, take it and rest early." Eric led me to the bedside, then carefully fetched the medicine and poured water, took care of me taking the pills, and helped me lie down. Under his gentle patting on my shoulder, my breathing gradually became steady. A while later, I heard him fumbling under the bedboard, followed by the sound of his departing footsteps. After waiting a few more seconds, I opened my eyes, spit out the medicine, got out of bed, and quietly followed him. He was in the small living room. From my angle, I could clearly see him holding a small player. He pressed the button, and the player emitted a baby's cry. He frowned. "The audio is fine." Could her condition really be worsening? My whole body trembled. Back in the room, I lay down on the bed, but I couldn't stop my body from shaking no matter what. Wah wah wah. Woo woo woo. It came again. I covered my ears. Why? Didn't he already take away the recorder? Why was there still a baby's cry? I rolled off the bed, barefoot, searching everywhere in the room. He must have hidden other recorders. Eric returned. "What are you doing?" "Still crying." She covered her ears. "He's still crying." What to do? Stop it quickly, make him stop. Eric's face turned cold. "Tina. Enough. Where is there any sound?" "There is. Clearly there is. Are you still hiding a recorder?" "You." Eric was surprised. "How do you know?" "Turn it off quickly." He looked at me coldly. "Since you know, stop pretending to be crazy, there are no other recorders." After saying that, he slammed the door and left. I didn't believe Eric at all and searched everywhere. But suddenly, my mind went blank, then everything went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in the yard. Heavy rain pelted my body, soaking me through, mud mixed with withered grass showed my disheveled state. In pain, I struggled to get up and walked back step by step. Back in the house, Eric stood with a dark face, arms crossed, looking at me. He sneered, "What? You know about this too?" She approached him like a ghost. He retreated to avoid her. "Yes, every time you wake up in a different place, it's me who moved you. Since you know, why pretend?" I looked blank. It took me a while to realize, oh, so my previous behaviors resembling sleepwalking, diagnosed as mental abnormality, were all arranged by him. I hugged myself. "You're lying to me. Since it was before, it must be this time too. Otherwise, why would I appear in the yard?" He pinched my chin. "Are you resisting me? It seems you haven't learned your lesson. Or do you not plan to marry me?" My mind was confused, but I subconsciously grabbed his arm. "No, we must marry. We have to marry. To save him." He shook off my hand. "Slut. Since you want to marry, don't play tricks on me." After saying that, he turned and left. I didn't have much lucid time. When lucid, I wanted to find answers. Upon checking, sure enough, there were puncture marks. He wanted me to get pregnant accidentally. Also, the daily medications, I secretly mailed them to an institution for component analysis. 3 days later, the report arrived on my phone. The test results were clear. The medications I was taking could not stabilize emotions. Instead, they stimulated the mind, leading to decreased energy and physical discomfort. The phone slipped from my hand, and tears rolled down simultaneously. Knock knock. A knock sounded. Outside, the driver reminded, "Miss, we need to leave, or we won't make it in time." Today, I was going to try on wedding dresses. Leaving home, I went all the way to the bridal shop. As I entered the VIP room, I saw a glaring scene. In front of me, a courtyard full of white wedding dresses, and a man and woman standing facing each other, handsome and beautiful, crucially both in bridal attire. The woman lifted the wedding dress skirt, her eyes full of shyness. She saw me, smiled, and walked over. In front of me, she showed off the wedding dress on her. "Sister Tina, look. This is the wedding dress Brother Eric ordered." She slowly turned around. "Isn't it beautiful? It fits me perfectly." The bridal shop clerk approached, smiling and praising. "The bride-to-be is very beautiful, with a great figure. This wedding dress looks like the groom-to-be put a lot of thought into it, custom-made for the bride. You two really match well." The clerk smiled and asked me, "This relative thinks so too, right?" A moment of silence. Chloe said embarrassedly, "You misunderstood. I'm not the bride-to-be, Sister Tina is." The clerk was embarrassed for a moment. The situation was very disjointed, even the clerk was full of shock, but Eric and Chloe acted as if nothing happened. I blacked out for a moment. When I could perceive my surroundings again, I found everyone looking at me in shock. Eric held Chloe, glaring at me. "Tina. If you continue acting crazy, go back to your mental hospital." I looked down and found scissors in my hand, and those beautiful wedding dresses had been shredded to pieces by me. Like a walking corpse, I got up and stumbled out. Back home, soon after, I saw Chloe's post on Moments. She posted a wedding photo, with blurred faces, but it was obvious it was her. Caption: "Being able to wear it for you once, I'm already content." My hand holding the phone trembled. After half a day, Eric came back. He came to me, without explanation, instead blaming, "What's going on? Chloe kindly helped, and you just ran back like that? What will she think?" I sat on the sofa, my body trembling slightly, slowly looking up. "You let her wear my wedding dress. Do you also want her to replace me in the wedding?" His eyes flashed, and he sat beside me. "What are you overthinking? Your condition hasn't been good lately, so I asked Chloe to try on the wedding dress for you." Blood rushed to my head in anger. "Do you think I'm stupid? He looked suspicious. What do you mean? I opened my mouth, but finally just shook my head. I'm tired, don't want to talk. He was even more impatient than me. Got it, then rest early. After saying that, he got up and left without mercy. His actions showed ruthlessness. How could I think I had finally warmed his heart? Although disappointed in Eric, I still sought out Victoria, hoping she could dissuade him. After all, our marriage concerned his family's enterprise. Using wedding affairs as a reason, Victoria called Eric back. I patiently waited for over 3 hours. As soon as he returned, I got up and approached. At first glance, he seemed calm, but I knew he was angry. Why haven't you rested yet? He stood still and asked me. I walked over, reached out to adjust his collar. What did Auntie want with you? After asking, I felt his body tense for a moment. Because of that, he didn't notice me removing the bug from his collar. He subtly avoided my intimacy, discussing wedding matters. There are some issues with the hotel arrangements. Your mental state isn't good, don't worry about it. Just be beautiful as my wife. I clenched my hand. Could it be that Victoria didn't tell him? I coped with a few sentences and returned to the study. I imported the audio into the computer and listened with headphones. Skipping irrelevant content, the most important was the dialogue. She had once revealed to me that she had evidence of Chloe betraying Eric. Victoria, what's going on? Did you upset Tina? Eric, no. Victoria, no? How come I heard there was a quarrel at the bridal shop? Victoria, I've said it many times. Chloe isn't suitable for you. Eric, Mom. You didn't do something again, did you? Eric, before, when you had someone hurt Chloe, I said there wouldn't be a second time. Victoria, son. We had no choice. The Tang family has only Tina as a daughter. She likes you, so no other women can exist around you. Victoria, your dad said, as long as you can take over the Tang family, we won't interfere, then, you can bring Chloe back to your side. No rush for this moment. At the end of the video, I heard my own voice, meaning Eric had returned home. It turned out that not only Eric, but even the Ling couple, who claimed to treat me as a daughter, were only after my family's fortune. When I removed the headphones, I realized I was already in tears. Just because I liked Eric, I not only harmed myself but might also implicate my parents. Breathing became difficult, limbs trembled. What happened after, I myself don't know. As if in an absurd dream, I was entangled by countless invisible restraints. Unable to break free, they tore at me, trying to rip me apart. When I woke up again, I was in the prayer room. My thoughts hadn't returned yet when a strange man's voice exploded in my ear. Finally awake? I jerked my head to look. 3 unfamiliar men surrounded me. I hurriedly got up. Who are you? What do you want? They laughed heartily, and the man who had just spoken continued to answer. Beauty, that's not right, didn't you invite us here? Hee hee. Could this be the beauty's kink? I get it, want to play forceful seizure? Fine. We brothers can play any script. I stepped back step by step. If I hadn't known the truth, I would think my condition had worsened. But at this moment, I clearly understood it wasn't. And because I understood, my whole body shook. Eric. How could you do this to me? The 3 men approached with ill intentions. I screamed for them not to come closer. The men didn't take it seriously, acting so real? I shook my head, I'm not acting. It wasn't me who called you here. Stop. Don't come closer. If you were called here, I clearly tell you, it wasn't me. Someone wants to harm me. If you touch me, my parents won't let you go. The men laughed. And as they laughed, I understood. You know. Someone called you here. The leading man sighed, we pity the fair sex, so we'll let you be clear. Yes, your man hired us to mess with you. Oh, he said it's best if we can give you a child. Beauty, what kind of taste is this? It's the first time I've seen such a request. It was indeed Eric. I suddenly ran behind the prayer altar and drew a dagger from it. How could I forget? I have mental illness. I aimed the blade at them. At this moment, I seemed not myself. I felt no sense of reality, ears buzzing. Step by step, I walked toward them, then raised the knife and slashed wildly. The other two men retreated. Big brother, she seems off? Could she be a madwoman? The leading man hesitated slightly. I caught the keyword, yes. I am crazy. After hearing this, the men completely gave up and hastily left. The dagger fell from my hand, and I collapsed to the ground. Before losing consciousness, I sought help from my parents. They hurried over and took me back. After my parents heard my account, both trembled with anger. My mom slapped the table and stood up. I'll go talk to them. I stopped her. Mom. Tearing faces now is not beneficial for us. My dad put out his cigarette. Tina is right. But we can't let them succeed. The wedding was imminent, and many arrangements needed to be made. First, my condition couldn't be delayed anymore. I needed real treatment, then, to clear the associated projects between the two family groups. The wedding was not just a marriage but key to the Ling family group's revival. The bride didn't participate in preparations, but originally, they only needed me to appear on site, so they weren't worried at all. The wedding began, with friends and family filling the seats. The groom entered, waiting for the bride. The lights dimmed. The bride didn't appear. A sound rang in the vast banquet hall, and simultaneously, the wedding video projection switched screens. In the video, 3 men carried my unconscious body into the prayer room. One man turned back and asked, "Do it now? Or wait until she wakes up?" With the clack 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 of high heels, a woman entered the frame, and simultaneously, a familiar female voice sounded in the venue. "Wait until she wakes up, and gang rape her while she's conscious. Tell her it's her husband who asked you to sleep with her." Murmurs arose noisily. It was Chloe. The video at the wedding site continued playing. The prayer room scene showed me driving away the 3 men, then jumped to other footage. There was Eric carrying me to the garden in heavy rain, and him taking wedding photos with Chloe. Some I knew, some I didn't. Watching these scenes, I still couldn't help but feel pain all over. Mom noticed my abnormality, hugged me. "It's okay, baby, it's all over." At the video's end, my dad walked onto the stage. He grabbed the microphone and smashed it hard on Eric's head. "Eric, you bastard. My daughter, for you, not only let you hitch on our Tang family but also went door to door begging friends for help. Ask these guests present. How many were begged by my daughter? If not for her, your Ling family would have been bankrupt long ago in the last economic fraud." Eric covered his forehead, blood flowing immediately. He shook his head. "Uncle Michael, what do you mean?" Victoria ran onto the stage, screaming, "Son. Are you okay? Michael. You dare hit my son." My dad sneered, "Ungrateful wretch. So what if I hit him? Sue me." "Perfect. You switched my daughter's medicine, tortured her to make her ill. I'll sue you for murder." After saying that, my dad bowed to the guests present in apology. Everyone continued dining, but not as a wedding banquet, but to celebrate my daughter escaping hell. "Thank you all." With all arrangements in place, he turned and left. Eric pushed away Victoria, who came to check his injury, chased a few steps. "Uncle Michael. What did you mean just now? Where is Tina?" My dad smashed another punch. "For driving my daughter crazy like that, I tell you, we're not done." The monitor closed. The room returned to quiet. Mom hugged me, silently comforting. Where was I? In the hospital. Just the day before, I had another episode. After the episode, my whole body hurt. Seeing I couldn't calm down, Mom pressed the call bell, and the doctor came quickly. Mom anxiously, "Ethan. Come quick and see, my daughter is shaking again." The psychiatrist was an acquaintance. He knew I was completely harmed by Eric and was very angry. Ethan came to my side, skillfully soothing. "Come, breathe with me, don't be nervous, don't be afraid, you're safe now, no one will hurt you. No one will hurt me. Yes. No more harm. Because I don't want Eric anymore. 3 days later, Eric still found me. Not surprising. In just a few days, he looked much more haggard. Of course, not because of me, but because of the mess in his family group. He walked to the bedside, silent for a long time. Seeming not to know how to start, after a while, his first sentence was, "Why didn't you tell me about my dad being scammed?" Because I'm cheap. Afraid if you knew, you wouldn't accept my help. He was stunned. I didn't mean to blame you. I mean, if you had told me, I could have solved it and wouldn't have misunderstood you. No. I overestimated myself, I couldn't face him calmly at all. Just a few words made my emotions fluctuate, breathing difficult. He stepped forward. As for the prayer room incident, I apologize on behalf of Chloe. She misunderstood like me, thinking you harmed her child to marry me. I sneered. Is that what she told you? He frowned. What's your attitude? Fine. We misunderstood, but if you had told me, everything would be different. Chloe is innocent, don't target her. I understood his purpose. Because the video captured Chloe hiring thugs to harm, his matter was easy to resolve, but Chloe's was hard to settle. I won't forgive her, nor withdraw the complaint, you can leave. I pressed the bell to see him out. It wasn't a nurse who came in, but Ethan. He hurried in, blocking in front of me in a protective stance, asking, "What? Did he lay hands on you?" Eric was full of hostility toward him. She's my wife, why would I lay hands on her? Ethan sneered. Tina, listen, he's quite good at telling jokes. Eric grabbed Ethan's shoulder. Say that again. I patted the bed. Eric. Enough. Get out. I count to 3, if you don't leave, I'll change to charging Chloe with murder. Silence. Eric looked at me heavily. 1. His arm veins bulged. 2. Without letting 3 out, he released Ethan. We'll talk later. After saying that, he turned and went out. Ethan sighed, raising his arm in a strange pose. No need to do that for me, don't look at me being slimmer than him, but I practice martial arts too. I was amused by his appearance and laughed. He lowered his arm. That's right, you look most beautiful when smiling. I was stunned, then a warm current surged into my heart. Thank you for cheering me up. He shrugged. As a friend, as your doctor, this is what I should do. At this moment, I felt fortunate. Good, I have family and friends by my side. Today, when Eric came, I guessed they were anxious. Sure enough, the next day, Chloe visited. Having seen Eric, seeing Chloe again made no difference to me. She entered, holding flowers. Sister Tina, long time no see. Seeing Chloe's appearance, I knew she wasn't here to apologize. After entering, she placed the flowers aside. While looking around, she said, I have a secret to tell you, but it depends if you dare go downstairs to the garden with me to talk. I looked at her indifferently. She smiled at me. No choice, after all, you have a record of secret filming. Of course, the secret I'll tell you is absolutely worth agreeing to my condition. I agreed to her. Originally, there was no surveillance in the room. We moved to the small garden downstairs of the sanatorium. She was quite vigilant. Once in a place with no others, she dropped her disguise. Didn't expect you to suddenly become clear-headed. Who told you? I looked at her indifferently. Coming with her wasn't to answer her doubts. She sneered mockingly. No choice. Look, you're too useless. You used your family background to force Eric to accept you, but couldn't win his heart at all. So, what's the use of good family, good looks? The man you love is infatuated with me. I impatiently said, weren't you going to tell me a secret? Chloe took out her phone, operated it a bit, then showed me, look, Eric and I have already registered abroad. So, don't feel wronged, whether before or now, you're the mistress. I looked closely, it was indeed a marriage registration. Even if this registration might be invalid domestically, this was Eric's attitude. I raised my eyes. I'm not interested in your affairs, but don't slander me. You played missing to avoid him because the Ling family was about to go bankrupt. You even aborted the child. I only started acting after you abandoned him. She put away the phone, deliberately exaggerating surprise. Oh my. So you know quite a bit. Then, she started pulling her own clothes, messing her hair, while moving, saying, but what to do? He just believes me, even if you tell him, it's useless. For example, in the current situation, guess who he believes, me or you? As her words fell, she suddenly slapped herself and sat back. I retreated, sensing something, but before I could react, I heard footsteps, then a shadow flashed before my eyes. Eric rushed to Chloe, squatted down to support her. Chloe teared up in a second. I came to apologize, we misunderstood her, she was actually for brother Eric. It's all my fault, I couldn't help at all, misunderstood sister Tina, developed hostility toward her, and even wanted revenge. She woo-woo-woo cried leaning into Eric's arms. Eric picked her up, eyes full of heartache, don't say any more. She struggled slightly, sister Tina is watching, put me down. She won't forgive me, hitting me is deserved. He held her tight, don't nonsense, why would she hit you? Even if not her intention, it's because of her. After soothing her, he turned and glared at me, Tina, I still felt guilty toward you before, but it seems unnecessary now. You really are still like this, only bullying Chloe. I didn't explain, no need. At this time a voice interjected. Stop. Don't think Tina has no one to protect her. It was Ethan. While speaking, he was already by my side. He faced Eric in a protector pose. Before, her parents and friends didn't know she was harmed by you, so they didn't intervene. Do you really think she's uncared for and can be bullied at will? Eric's face darkened, his gaze going back and forth between us, finally landing on Ethan. What identity do you use to protect her? What relation to point fingers at me? Ethan hesitated for a moment, then openly replied, identity? Relation? None. Just a heart that wants to protect her. Once the sentence was out, the atmosphere inexplicably became more tense. Everyone was adults and understood the meaning. I did too. I immediately looked at him in surprise. He smiled reassuringly at me. My trembling body relaxed. Eric's shout exploded in my ear, Tina. Come here. I turned. He stared at me, come to my side, for hitting Chloe, we need to apologize to her. As for this inexplicable person beside you, stay away from him. Ethan crossed his arms, what? Jealous? Don't forget, you're still holding one in your arms. Chloe's expression twisted for a moment, but when Eric looked over, she immediately looked aggrieved, it's all my fault. However, she couldn't continue performing. Ethan suddenly said, does someone think there's no surveillance here? Unfortunately, it's newly installed. Chloe stiffened. Eric dissatisfied, what do you mean? He shrugged, I mean, from my understanding of Tina, she's straightforward and doesn't like acting or lying like someone. I even hope she really hit someone, better than being wronged. This sentence hit my heart unprepared. Warm, yet making one want to cry. Eric rebuked angrily, don't be sarcastic, wouldn't I know the situation? Chloe is the most innocent, as for Tina, her mental state is bad, anything she does is normal. Ethan was angered, huffing and puffing, I listened beside, finding him cute. He didn't refute Eric but directly asked Chloe, this most innocent lady, want to check the surveillance? Check then. No. Two answers came simultaneously. The former from Eric, the latter naturally from Chloe. Eric, surprised, looked down at Chloe. She tensed for a moment, then innocently said, I don't want to make it so embarrassing to prove myself, just assume I directed and acted it myself. Eric's doubts completely dissipated, condemnation turned toward us. But none of us paid attention. Ethan blurted out idiot, then looked at me and extended his hand. He said nothing, but I understood. I wasn't hesitating, just hadn't reacted, so I didn't act immediately. Tina. Eric's call rang with some panic and warning. But I didn't look back. Coming to senses, I had already held Ethan's hand. Ethan gripped back, while taking a USB drive from his pocket and throwing it over. "This is the surveillance video from the mental hospital you sent Tina to. Their torture and humiliation of Tina constitutes a crime. I tell you, I'll pursue it to the end." And he gave me freedom and choice. Once I chose, he took particular initiative, firmly leading me away from the scene, as if leading me out of a muddy vortex. We walked side by side. I casually asked him, "Really installed surveillance?" He smiled back, "No, just bluffing her." I couldn't help but laugh. Back in the ward. We looked at each other and suddenly both fell silent. After a while, he spoke first, "Just now." Afraid of awkwardness, I quickly interjected, "I understand, you were helping. I won't take it seriously." Silence. Ethan sighed, murmuring faintly, "But this can be taken seriously." I was stunned. He raised his eyes to look at me, meeting my gaze, mustering courage. "Tina, I mean, if you can take it seriously, then, can I have some expectation?" I opened my mouth. He suddenly raised his hand, "No. My heart is too fragile, don't answer me yet." He was truly nervous, so he didn't dare look at me. If he looked, he would surely notice my unconcealable smile. Indeed, still unable to respond clearly, so let's shelve it for now. The atmosphere was good until noise outside ruined it. The nurse couldn't stop him. Eric intruded. He came alone, no sign of Chloe. Ethan didn't think, stepped sideways in front to block me. "Why haven't you left? What do you want?" "Don't mess around, I'll call the police." Eric ignored him completely, his gaze fell on my hand resting on Ethan's arm. Then, he showed panic and jealousy that I didn't understand. He stared at me intently. "Tina, let's talk alone." I didn't want to, so refused, "I have nothing to say to you." His thick brows furrowed, "What do you mean?" "Don't make trouble. I've already re-prepared the wedding, didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I need to rely on you. Once I handle the company matters, we'll." I interrupted him, "I should ask you what you mean. Whose wedding with whom?" "Mine with you? Are you crazy?" He must be crazy, because after hearing my words, he looked full of disbelief. You don't want me anymore?" At this moment, I doubted again if those medications really damaged my nerves. I looked at Ethan. Ethan's face wrote "really unlucky" clearly, although I really don't want to admit, but afraid you'll doubt yourself again. He was very unwilling but still nodded. "You didn't mishear. Eric said a really unlucky sentence." "Oh." I numbly responded in my heart, then looked at Eric. "Otherwise? Our wedding cancellation, is it a joke?" His breathing quickened. "Tina. You can blame me, be angry, but don't say spiteful words. How could you leave me?" Hee hee. Ethan sneered mockingly, "So someone is overconfident." At this time, I also suddenly realized. So, even now, he still thinks I'm just throwing a tantrum. Feeling absurd, but also understanding. Yes, isn't he just fearless because he knows clearly how much I love him? But now, he finally realized. He walked forward, wanting to approach me. Of course, Ethan blocked him tightly. After several failed attempts to contact me, he angrily swung a punch. Without thinking, I hugged Ethan to protect him. Ethan didn't freeze, he acted almost simultaneously. But originally to meet it, now changed to holding me to dodge. After dodging, he first checked my condition. Confirming I was fine, he said both proudly and worriedly, "I'm glad you protected me, but I hope more for your safety. Trust me, I can handle this situation. Protect yourself in the future, okay?" I nodded. Confirming nothing wrong, delayed anger surged, burning reason. I suddenly turned, roaring at him, "Eric." Eric interrupted the unspoken words, "I know. You're very angry, because of Chloe, right? She's pitiful, so let's forget the past, okay? How about this? We both have misunderstandings. I'll go investigate now. I'll make you believe Chloe is innocent." I had no strength to say more to him. Even now, he hadn't figured out the key to our problems. And he took my silence as agreement. He retreated outward while guaranteeing, "It'll be quick. Wait for me." Eric left. Ethan asked me, "Need help?" Let him know that woman surnamed Yuan's true face? Without a moment's hesitation, I shook my head. No need. How they are has nothing to do with me. Whether he's deceived, I don't care. He helped me back to bed, muttering, "I really want to see his expression when he knows the truth. It must be interesting." Interesting? I had no thoughts. Later developments confirmed Eric really wanted to prove for Chloe. Pity. Mom came to see me and told me something. Victoria is too much. Victoria is Eric's mother. Mom, she actually knew early that Chloe aborted because she despised their family going bankrupt. I patted Mom's back. "Don't be angry." Mom's eyes teared up in anger. How not to be angry? She knew early, yet let her son degrade you like that. Basically playing us. And shamelessly says we must fulfill the marriage agreement. When I knew before, I was also angry. It's my fault, because I liked Eric, almost harmed Dad and Mom. Nonsense. The fault is the Ling family's. It's that stinking kid Eric. Mom, how did you know? Mom hummed, "Who knows what that stinking kid is up to? Seems like investigating Chloe." As soon as Victoria saw, she pushed all blame onto Chloe, claiming her son was also deceived. "He's innocent, asking you to forgive him." Normal people couldn't say such things. It shows the Ling family's situation is very bad. The darkness in my heart kept expanding. 1 month after the wedding incident, I was approved for discharge. I sat on the sofa, watching Ethan busily packing my clothes. His mouth wasn't idle, nagging a bunch of instructions. Some touches couldn't be expressed. I laughed at him. "Got it. This is the 5th time you've reminded me today. Dr. Ethan, I'm discharged. Won't you care for me anymore?" He packed the clothes and luggage, turned back, somewhat incredulous, so cautiously asked, "You're still willing to let me care?" I nodded heavily, "Of course. You're still my responsible doctor." He was disappointed for a moment. "You mean just as a doctor?" Silence. I thought and said frankly, I was hurt deeply by Eric, temporarily not considering those. He anxiously, "Temporary means?" "I can't guarantee you. Anyway, now I just want to live well." Got it. I was too hasty. You're right, at least, I'm still your responsible doctor. Yes, temporarily like this is best. Because I have a doctor-cum-friend, I didn't let family pick me up. Just out of the sanatorium building, my car hadn't arrived, but another car blocked the way. Eric got out of the car. He hurried to me, without a word hugged me. "Sorry. Really sorry. Tina. I didn't know you did so much for me. I didn't know Chloe hurt you. Those medicines weren't switched by me. I didn't hire people to insult you. Really, believe me, really, sorry. I didn't know that mental hospital was bought by Chloe." After hugging me, he outputted like this. After I reacted, I struggled, "Shut up. Shut up." Ethan also reacted, put down the luggage and pulled him. Eric was very emotional, or rather, his recent state was bad. He was easily pulled off me by Ethan. He was thrown away. In this gap, Ethan came to hug me, and I threw myself into his arms. Protected by him, I then looked at Eric. He was clutching his stomach, pale-faced looking at me. Meeting eyes, he pitifully said, "Tina, my stomach illness acted up again." Once, if he was uncomfortable, I would heartache to tears. Knowing he had stomach illness, I went to great lengths to make his diet regular. But that was once. Now, I only felt disgust. Ethan protected me toward the car. Eric shouted behind, but his body was very uncomfortable, couldn't walk a few steps, painfully bent over. I was already in my car. Over there, Eric fell heavily to the ground. Ethan looked at me, seeking my opinion. Without hesitation, I got in the car. Didn't someone notice? "Let's go." The sanatorium staff hurriedly surrounded Eric, from the noise, it was known Eric fainted in pain. I coldly glanced over, then shifted my gaze. The car started steadily, leaving those comings and goings far behind. All the way back home. Of course, not the marital home, but the premarital home. Ethan had sneaked looks at me several times. I sat on the sofa, said to him, "He deserves it." He poured water for me, sat beside, he already knows Chloe's bad side. So? Will you forgive him? How are you like my mom? Do I look that stupid to you? Phew. He exhaled, then relieved, "Of course you're not stupid, you're just soft-hearted, it's normal to be soft toward liked people." I shook my head, firmly said, "Rest assured, I've really let go of Eric." Later, I gradually heard the follow-up progress. First, without Eric as backing, Chloe's hiring thugs naturally couldn't be suppressed. Similarly, I learned the person who switched my medicine indeed wasn't Eric. Of course, this made no difference to me. As for Eric himself, he was trying hard to save the company. Midway, heard he fainted from exhaustion several times, each time calling my name. He came to find me. At that time, he said to me, "Before the situation is clear, I have no right to find you. So, I'll stabilize the company first, then come to you clean, with no interest relations. Tina, please wait for me." These were all bullshit, he was talking to himself. I didn't wait for him at all, had no interest in his success. He had tried to control the company's bankruptcy, but it was too late. Failed. Deserves it. But they shouldn't cling to my parents. I found an opportunity and went to the Ling home alone. Silently, I set a fire in the living room. The fire spread, Ling family ran out. Victoria saw me in the yard, shocked. "Tina. You set the fire? How dare you?" I laughed. "What don't I dare? If you still cling to my family, I'll kill you all." "You're crazy." "Yes. I'm crazy, your son personally drove me crazy, so if I kill, seems I can be exempt from punishment." "Ah. Bitch." Victoria rushed at me. Eric put out the fire, turned back to see this, hurriedly ran to stop. He seemed not to believe at all that I would hurt him. Pity, poochy sound. The knife entered the abdomen. "Son!" Victoria screamed. Eric staggered back, clutching his abdomen, looking at me in disbelief. Drip drip, blood drops fell quickly. I raised my hand, wiped my face, got some on, I laughed. "See, do I dare or not? So, will you still cling to my parents?" Victoria supported Eric, screaming and taking her phone. "Call police. I must make her go to jail." Eric stopped her. "No, Mom, don't. It's what I deserve, don't blame Tina." "Can't call police." "Don't call." After saying, he looked at me, "Tina. Rest assured, we won't cling to your parents, Oh. I indifferently interrupted, smiling at the corner, "No matter, if you cling, I'll kill you all." Eric shed tears. "Tina, sorry. Apologizing now? Regretting now? Then go die," I said. After saying, turned, I strode out. Eric was in hospital rescue, Chloe was bailed out. I learned this news but was happy, because it was me who had parents maneuver to temporarily release her. Just a few years in prison? I was too unwilling. I went to find her, squatting at her door. Chloe knew I stabbed Eric, very afraid, she didn't dare confront me face to face, only dared to call police. Police came, then Chloe dared open the door. I trembled. "Why am I here?" I preempted, "Chloe. Why won't you let me go? Want to torture me until when? You got bailed, why not reflect and admit wrong, still torture me?" Chloe stunned, "Bullshit. You came yourself." She urgently denied, "Comrade police. She's pretending." She ran to Ling home to set fire, and stabbed Eric. She wants to kill me. Quick, arrest her. Me? I was mentally dazed. How don't I know? What's going on? Wasn't my condition cured? Why like this? I collapsed squatting. Where police couldn't see, I showed Chloe a malicious smile. She screamed in fear, "See? She's deliberate. She wants to kill me." Ding. The elevator door opened, a man staggered over. "Eric." Chloe saw, "He's here. Comrade police, ask him." Eric walked up, heard police inquiry, he denied outright, "Of course not, Tina stabbing me, Chloe is lying." "Chloe, you don't change your ways, so vicious." Chloe widened eyes in disbelief. Eric was hunched over, pale, blood seeping from abdomen. And I, seeing him, turned and walked away. "Tina." He called me, I didn't turn back. Next moment, only heard that a heavy fall, Chloe screamed, police called Eric's name, and dialed 911. Eric fainted again, deserves it. This was my first time finding Chloe, but of course not the last. Chloe was very afraid and panicked, she also had symptoms of mental breakdown. At her door, I told her, "You also want to use mental illness to escape crime? Great. I can introduce you to a mental hospital, want to know how I lived there? You'll know once you go." Chloe broke down shouting. She completely lost reason. Half a month after bail, she ran to the clinic where I received psychological resources. She wanted to kill me. I laughed, finally waited for her. I seized her knife, in her shock, counter-killed. She slowly fell. Looking at Chloe on the ground, I touched her face, "Congratulations, crime upon crime." When police came, I trembled, huddled in the corner, "Sorry." She wanted to kill me, I was afraid, I grabbed her knife, "Did I kill?" Police soothed me, "Rest assured, she's fine, and it's complete self-defense, we've investigated, she bought knife and poison, she totally wanted to kill you. Of course she wouldn't die, I didn't stab vital parts. When she wakes, it's sentencing with aggravated crime. And I, naturally no crime at all." A few days later, Ling family announced bankruptcy. On the bankruptcy announcement day, he accepted reporter interview. I saw him on news. Months unseen, he was ridiculously thin, emaciated. Surprisingly didn't stab him to death. Pity. He looked at the lens, as if looking at me. After announcing bankruptcy, he mentioned private life. "The person I most wronged is my ex-fiancé. I wronged her, hurt her, and couldn't fulfill promises to her. From this moment, I've lost the qualification to give her happiness." Saying this, his emotions choked several times. Tone choked, after several emotion adjustments could continue. "Although late, although I deserve it, but I want to tell her. I love you." At this point, he covered his face, choking and crying. Suddenly, a warmth covered my hand back. I turned sideways, Ethan nervously looking at me. At this moment, we were in the airport waiting hall. A passenger watching news on phone was commenting. "Men are like this, regret only after losing, playing some hindsight true heart. Ridiculous." Hearing this, I was amused, whispered to Ethan, "Listen, others see clearly, would I not? Nervous about this, nervous about that, so little confidence in yourself?" He aggrievedly, "Originally I was quite confident, but don't know why, with you, no confidence at all." I raised brows. To give him some confidence, I bluntly said, "Do you think I'm someone who casually goes traveling with people?" Although not solo travel, allowing him to join already explained. He didn't understand at once, "Am I not your accompanying doctor?" I blinked, said nothing, gave him a look to comprehend himself. He comprehended. First incredulous, staring hard at me, until I was shy from staring, he confirmed. Then, he suddenly stood up, dancing excitedly, shouting. "Really? I didn't misunderstand? You really willing to give me a chance?" I nervously looked around, sure enough, waiting passengers looked over. I quickly pulled his hand, "Shoo." He didn't feel embarrassed, silly smiling, even apologized to other passengers. "Sorry. I'm too happy." A passenger kindly teased, "What? The girl accepted your confession?" He smiled, more or less. The passenger with phone news exited the page, teased along, that's good news. Worth being happy. I was really embarrassed for him, covered face with hand, ignored the someone's silly thanking strangers' blessings. But I knew myself, the smile couldn't be suppressed. It turns out, abandoning the past, embracing the future, isn't that hard. I believe I can.